And to my daughter, Catherine Morgan, I leave my personal art collection, currently stored in the attic studio." The lawyer's voice echoed through my father's wood-paneled study as my stepmother Victoria's perfectly manicured nails dug into the leather armchair. Her daughter, Ashley, didn't even try to hide her snicker. "That's it," Victoria's voice dripped with false concern. "Charles, surely there must be more for his only daughter." Charles Bennett, my father's longtime attorney, adjusted his glasses. "The remainder of the estate, including the main residence, investment portfolios, and business holdings, goes to Mrs. Victoria Wells Morgan and her daughter Ashley Wells." I sat quietly, thinking about the countless hours I'd spent in that attic studio with my father. How he taught me about art restoration while my classmates were learning to drive. The secret techniques he'd passed down, inherited from his own father, who'd been one of Europe's most respected art restorers before World War II. Well, Ashley stretched luxuriously in her designer outfit. "At least you got something, Katie. Those dusty old paintings might fetch a few hundred at a garage sale." If only they knew. My father's last words to me 2 weeks ago, whispered from his hospital bed when Victoria and Ashley were at their spa day. "Remember what I taught you about looking beneath the surface, kitten. Not everything is what it seems." I'd spent the next week in that attic studio, using every technique he taught me. The ultraviolet light analysis, the infrared reflectography, the careful examination of brush strokes and canvas aging. What I found had nearly stopped my heart. "I appreciate the inheritance," I said calmly, standing up. "When can I arrange to collect the paintings?" Victoria waved her hand dismissively. "Take them today if you want. We're planning to renovate that awful attic into Ashley's yoga studio anyway." Perfect. I'd already arranged for a specialized art transport service to be on standby. One that regularly worked with major museums and auction houses. "Charles," Victoria turned to the lawyer, "about those investment accounts." I slipped out while they discussed their newfound wealth. In the attic studio, 16 paintings lay carefully wrapped in the archival materials I'd prepared. My father's amateur collection of supposed reproduction masterpieces. Except they weren't reproductions. The transport team worked efficiently, each painting carefully crated under my supervision. Through the window, I could see Victoria and Ashley in the garden, already discussing plans for redecorating the house. "Ms. Morgan?" The lead technician approached with a tablet. "If you could sign here, we'll have everything delivered to the secure facility within 3 hours." I signed, thinking about the preliminary analysis I'd already sent to Marcus Chen at Sotheby's. His response had been immediate. "If these are what you suspect, we're looking at the most significant art discovery of the decade." My phone buzzed. "Ashley, don't forget to clean up any dust after moving your junk. Our interior designer comes tomorrow." I smiled, taking one last look at the studio where I'd learned my father's most valuable lessons. Not just about art restoration, but about patience, observation, and the power of keeping certain knowledge safe until the right moment. Walking to my car, I heard Victoria's voice drift from an open window. "Finally, we can make this house worthy of our status." All those years pretending to care about his silly painting hobby. 2 months. That's how long Marcus had estimated it would take for full authentication. 2 months until the art world would learn about the lost masterpieces that had disappeared during World War II, secretly preserved and passed down through my family. 2 months until Victoria and Ashley discovered exactly what they dismissed as junk. My father's voice echoed in my memory. "In art, as in life, patience reveals truth. Wait for the right moment to reveal what you know." The right moment was coming, and it would be a masterpiece of timing. "Ms. Morgan, we're ready to begin the press conference." I nodded to Marcus Chen, adjusting my blazer as we prepared to enter Sotheby's main gallery. Through the door, I could hear the buzz of journalists and art critics gathering for what the invitation had called the discovery of the decade. The past 2 months had been intense. Each painting had undergone rigorous authentication, microscopic analysis, pigment dating, provenance research. Every test had confirmed what I'd suspected in that attic studio. My phone buzzed. A text from Ashley. Did you see? Sotheby's found some huge lost art collection. That's the kind of stuff Dad should have collected instead of those stupid copies. If only she knew." I smiled, remembering Victoria's face when she visited the house last week, bragging about their new interior designer and making sure I knew they'd properly disposed of all that dusty art stuff left in the attic. "Ready?" Marcus asked, checking his notes one last time. Almost. I pulled up the live stream app on my phone, sending one last text to Victoria. You might want to watch Sotheby's press conference. Channel 4 starting now. The gallery doors opened and I walked onto the small stage. Camera flashes erupted as Marcus stepped to the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming. Today, Sotheby's is privileged to announce the discovery of 16 masterpieces, lost since World War II. The paintings were unveiled one by one. A previously unknown Monet secretly preserved by my grandfather. A missing Degas, thought destroyed during the Nazi occupation. Each revelation brought gasps from the assembled experts. My phone started vibrating continuously. Victoria and Ashley, finally realizing what they'd given away. I switched it to silent as Marcus continued. These works, valued collectively at approximately $40 million, have been authenticated beyond any doubt. Their preservation is a testament to 3 generations of the Morgan family's expertise in art restoration and conservation. A reporter raised her hand. How did these paintings survive the war? I stepped to the microphone. My grandfather was an art restorer in Europe. When the Nazis began confiscating artwork, he worked with the resistance to preserve what he could. Some pieces he restored were too dangerous to return. They would have been destroyed or sold off. So he protected them, disguising masterpieces as amateur reproductions. And your father continued this deception? Another journalist asked. He protected them until the right time. Many of the original owners' families were lost in the war. Part of the proceeds from these sales will go to Holocaust education and art restitution programs. The questions flew. How had the paintings been authenticated? Why reveal them now? What about claims from original owners' descendants? I answered each one, watching the live stream counter tick up as more people tuned in. Somewhere, I knew Victoria and Ashley were watching their dismissed junk turn into one of the most valuable art collections in recent history. Right on cue, my email pinged, a message from Victoria's lawyer, claiming the paintings had been mistakenly included in my inheritance. I smiled, opening the document I prepared for just this moment, photos of Victoria's signed statement from the will reading, explicitly rejecting any interest in the worthless reproductions. Marcus concluded the press conference with the announcement that made headlines worldwide. The Morgan collection will be auctioned next month, with opening bids starting at $40 million. Back in the private office, I finally checked my phone. 17 missed calls from Victoria, 12 from Ashley, 5 from their lawyer, and 1 from Charles Bennett, my father's attorney, that actually mattered. Brilliant timing, Charles said when I called back. Your father would have loved this. He planned it, you know, I replied. All those years teaching me restoration techniques, making sure I could authenticate the collection myself, and letting Victoria and Ashley believe they were getting everything of value. That was his masterstroke. He knew they'd never bother to look closely at amateur reproductions. The story exploded across social media. Art websites analyzed each painting's history. Journalists dug into my grandfather's wartime resistance activities. Museums worldwide began contacting Sotheby's about the auction. Victoria tried everything: legal threats, public appeals, even attempting to claim my father had been mentally incompetent when making a will. Nothing worked. She and Ashley had signed multiple documents rejecting any claim to the worthless art collection. A week before the auction, I received an unexpected visitor at my apartment. Ashley, I don't want money, she said quickly as I opened the door. I need to understand. All those years, watching you and your dad in that attic, you knew? No, I replied honestly. Dad never told me directly. He taught me how to see what others miss. The rest I figured out after he died. He spent more time with you in that dusty studio than he ever did with me and Mom in a house, she said quietly. Because you and Victoria made it clear his hobby was beneath you. Every time he tried to share his knowledge, you laughed it off. She looked down at her designer shoes. Mom's talking about contesting the will again. She won't win, but there is something. I handed her a folder, documentation for a new charitable foundation, funded by part of the auction proceeds, the Morgan Family Art Education Fund. Dad wanted his legacy to mean something, I explained, not just the monetary value, but the knowledge, the history, the techniques he preserved. The foundation will fund art restoration programs, Holocaust education, and recovery of lost artwork. Why are you showing me this? Because despite everything your family, There's a place for you on the board if you want it. A chance to be part of something bigger than redecorated houses and yoga studios. The auction itself made history. Museums and collectors worldwide participated. The final price, $67 million, exceeded even Sotheby's estimates. Victoria watched from home, having been politely but firmly denied entrance to the auction house. 1 year later, I stood in the new Morgan Gallery at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, watching students learn restoration techniques that my grandfather had used to save priceless masterpieces. Ashley, surprisingly, had become an enthusiastic foundation board member, discovering a genuine passion for art history. Victoria, last I heard, she'd moved to Florida, unable to face her former social circle after her very public attempts to claim the art collection had failed. My father's last lesson had been his greatest. True value isn't always visible on the surface, and sometimes the most precious inheritances are the ones that others dismiss as worthless. In the gallery, beside each restored masterpiece, a plaque tells part of our family's story. How art, love, and knowledge were preserved through generations, hidden in plain sight until the right moment to reshape history. And in my home office, I keep just one painting, a genuine amateur work by my father. Not worth millions, but priceless to me. Because unlike the masterpieces, this one was signed with a simple message, to my kitten, who learned to see beneath the surface. Love, Dad. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving your father right.